Hey guys, so before we get into this video here, I do want to say that this is a long one, but we're going to have timestamps in the bottom here for you so you can pick which hero you want to see specifically. High effort. We're actually Karen.
Quality video today.
Hell yeah. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video with an Awaken Chaos Era video and first video on the channel. So I figured what better way to kick it off than to bring on the man himself. We got DM in the house.
Thanks for having me, Kyr.
Hell yeah. So we're starting off with talking about the best starter legendary. Because if you guys are not familiar with this game, you get to pick at least one of these legendary heroes. It's not any legendary, but you get
Very generous.
So to break this down, if you guys are not familiar with what the rookie summon is, you get to 2-8 in the campaign, and then you get to choose one of these legendaries. And how it works is you get 5 choices. 3 of them are legendary, and then 2 of them are going to be 2 epics. So you get a couple good options there. And we're going to be bringing up what we think are the best choices out of these legendaries. Because there's more legendaries in the game, but we're going to be breaking them down.
Is there subjective opinion? Because there's I would say, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I would say there's a fair argument to be made for almost any of these heroes, depending upon what you particularly want to focus on.
Completely agree. To be honest, I think all of these heroes are good.
They're all viable. Yeah. I mean, I see people that will ask the question like, hey, DM, I have to pick between this one and this one. I have to sell just whatever one you like. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to feel bad. It's not like this is your last legendary. This isn't Charizard versus Squirtle here. Like, you can get all the Pokemon, even free to play. It's not that. It's very generous. Is what I'm getting at.
I think it's super generous, but not only that, it's the elemental bonus in this game makes it to where you're always going to want to have other heroes. Even if they do the same thing, they're still useful. So you get a really good fire hero, you get a good water hero, all of that's going to matter. So you're eventually going to potentially want these heroes anyway. So you don't feel bad on whichever hero you pick. They're all good. It's just, I think some of them are going to be better early, and then some of them are not going to be good until way later. So don't feel bad, because at least one of these, in Mytheasia specifically, is a big feels bad until later, and then she becomes amazing. So let's break it down.
The disclaimers are out of the way, and now we'll get into basically like the neckbeard, like elitist, small little minute details. But really, the disclaimer is you can pick any of these and have good. Except maybe, what do you think? Balberith is arguably the worst choice.
I would say, yeah. I would say that's probably the worst out of all these. I would say, yeah, he's probably the one. Yeah, he's good. He's definitely good, but at the same time, I think he's probably the most niche out of these, and I think other ones are going to do his job a little better. So yes, I would say he's probably the worst. So here, let's actually break down specifically. Let's start with
left to right.
Let's start with let's start with Hydrissea, because she's probably the most talked about when it comes to her. But I think a lot of people are just looking at new content and it's just blindly, let's pick Hydrissea because that's what everyone says to do. And I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it is either. Yeah, the more I play this game, the less and less I use Hydrissea. But the other heroes I'm actually more excited about, which I think is a little interesting the further you get into this game. So,
and I would argue like the reasons that people want Hydrissea aren't even accurate. Like from what I've seen, people say, "Oh, well, you want her because she's speed down and speed down's great." It's like, okay, well, let's actually think about this. Like, if that's what we're saying, then we want speed down so that we go first. In order for that to happen, one of the slowest heroes in the game with her has to be faster than a faster base speed hero. And there's only an objective amount of speed you can even get in these games, by the way, and then apply the speed down before they go. If that's the case, your gear is so much infinitely better anyway. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Like, I completely agree. Like, and so using her, I have one completely maxed, by the way. So I went all in on using her. So it's like, I feel like I have good experience in using Hydrissea. And the things that I've come across in the beginning of the game, she's absolutely insane. She's so good when you're just trying to do the campaign. And I think that's where she really shines, is if you want a character that really brute forces that, then it's amazing. Also, people are going to talk about how good she is in Arena. I think she's solid. I just think eventually she kind of gets phased out of Arena because of the tanky teams. Like, there's a pretty high tanky meta that's going on in the game. And then her modifiers are a little low. So that's really going to start to come up when you start to do harder dungeons and when you start to do Arena. Yes, the speed down is great, but when you tie that with, she doesn't really have an identity. She does AoE damage, but it's low AoE damage. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So, you've got your Ash 12 on auto. So let me ask you:
Hmm.
is there a world in which you live in which you could be interested in her speed down to make it easier for your team to break that speed barrier to go
Um,
first, or is it just you don't use her
Potentially,
entirely?
I don't use her entirely because she doesn't. She's bringing purely just light damage that is supposed to be able to beat the waves because of how the mechanics work in there. And when it comes, if I'm relying on the speed down, unless there's someone could tell me exactly how much focus it means to 100% land the speed down, then yes, I
Yeah,
think she could be useful. But I don't think anyone knows that yet. And
I don't know it. I kind of
yeah,
want to. I've seen people asking the same thing about focus resistance. I guess it's another
hmm,
topic, but
yeah,
no, just so you know, like, yeah, I'm with you
hmm.
on that point entirely. It's another separate annoying thing.
So I think for most people she's a great hero, but a lot of the advice is that you pick her and you blind pick her and she's the best one, and that's not the case at all.
It's
Yeah.
not the case, and it might. I also feel like it's a bummer because there might actually be an argument to pick her, but it's not almost for the reasons people are saying.
Hmm.
So it's like the reasons you want her, or she has great splash damage. She's an AOEer. She's one of the only people in the game that's got AOE on basically every move, including her basic, because of the way the splash works. Like
Hmm.
that is why you would want her. And then she's a blue affinity if you need to blow through red,
And then I
red or
think
whatever.
she would be more useful if there wasn't this hero in the game. Like I think people should know when it comes to this and why people what it's Nathalia. Nathalia actually does
Completely agree.
have AoE on everything, but her modifiers are like insanely higher. She hits like 3 to 4 times
She's
harder than her.
objectively better.
Yeah, and what she does, yes, she doesn't have the speed down, but the speed down I don't think is that impactful in much content. Like, yes, you can argue in like Void Tower when people are fast, but as a person that's trying to clear
Like,
it, yeah, it's
let me make a point here, which is that if Winstrex, who is supposed to be fast to give speed up and all that, had some of the slowest base speeds in the game, why would you use her? It's the same
exactly.
reason with Hydrissea. It's like this argument of speed down is this PvP down. It's like, no, it's not. You just don't understand. Then it's like
Hmm.
you're not going to get this. The base speed difference is ridiculous. Like
It's
Kyle,
insane. Yeah,
146 speed. Like, you think you're going to get that difference in speed out of it? Gear, get out of here.
yeah, it's just not gonna happen. So I don't want to like dump on her too hard because I don't think she's bad. She's definitely good,
Not
but at the
bad.
same time, she's not nearly as good as the blind pick her. She's the only one to pick and then go from there. Because I personally don't use her. I use Nathalia in any situation. I would think to use her. Nathalia is infinitely better. Yes, she requires some setup and some buffs, but she does so much more damage that I think she's the way to go. And she autos truly on every move, not just two, because her auto attacks even do AoEs. So that's my opinion on Hydra. Do you have any closing arguments?
Nope. I mean, Great Hero is arguably the best pick or one of the best picks. I just think that our points have already been made there. And then if we're arguing for her, which is basically AoE, well, I might pick Valerie over her
Hmm.
or even
Yeah,
Evera.
yeah, and Valeria just got buffed, so it's that also might factor into better picks than her. So then you can argue typing and stuff like that. Maybe it'll help you in campaign, but you're eventually going to
It's an
get through that
argument.
anyway. Yeah, and now let's go next on the list. We have let's talk about him because he's right here in the same faction. We got Mulhex. I
Yep.
think this guy's a little interesting. Probably a little niche to be taking in as an early campaign farmer, but I think he's very good. What do you
I
think?
think he's I think he's good, but I think he falls prey to the fact that much like in other games, this game has an overloaded affinity, which is blue affinity. So
Mm-hmm.
blue affinity has all the good heroes. Basically, it was. I mean, not all of them. I'm just kind of memeing, but you get the point. So
Yeah.
the problem with him is he's a supportive type of hero. Basically, he's not a DPS carry. He is essentially is going to make your other people do good things. Okay. And so, because of that, it's like I don't think he's better than William. And if I wanted, because of the way affinity works in this game and how strong affinity is, if I am going to pick a blue support, it is not going to be this man. It is probably going to be one of the other blue support heroes. Now,
Uh,
I like the fact that he does defense down and
oh,
attack up.
I think he's like a pseudo damage dealer, but also improves your other damage dealers. Because the thing I like about him is that you're getting attack up for everyone with his ult. You're getting this move here. I like this move better than like some of the AoEs in certain situations in Hydrissea, because you're getting deals 100% damage to all enemies if this character has attack up, then launches a bonus attack. So you're getting like a 200% move here, which beats any percentages that Hydrissea does. You're getting attack up for everyone. You're also getting a defense down plus an attack up on the ult. And then he has this passive here where any attack an ally affected with attack up against an enemy reduces this character's abilities cooldowns by 1 turn. So he's like a damage dealer, but not only is he a damage dealer, but he's making everyone else better. Then he's very survivable because S tier health. It's kind of a bummer that he only has A tier attack, but when you're giving yourself attack up all the time, that doesn't matter. And
you are making a good sales pitch for this hero. However, my devil's advocate for this is the question is not, is Mulhex a good hero? Is it the starting of the 7 heroes you want to start with? And instead, my argument would be this is a hero you want to pull, not pick. I think this is the type of hero that you want him after you have other heroes that are currently doing things. I mean, I understand your point about attacking all enemies. I just think if I was going to pick and I had this option over, who would you, okay, let me ask you, let me put the ball back in your court. Who do you not pick this hero for? I mean, who do you pick him over?
Who do I pick him over? I would pick him over, like if let's pull up the image here. I'd probably pick him over Balberith. I'd probably pick him in the beginning. I think Hector's a great hero, but I'd probably pick him over Hector.
I started with Hector, just so you know, that was my pick.
Yeah, like Hector's fantastic. He's just too single target to help you progress. If you're picking a hero to progress, I don't like Hector. Mytheasia, I kind of have a different argument, because Mytheasia I'm starting to appreciate a lot more, and she's very niche, and she's the only one that does really her job. So I think she's great. But in the beginning, if you need a character in the beginning, I'd probably pick Mulhex over her. And then
let's flip this whole conversation on its head, and let me throw the ball this way to you. Which of these heroes is the one that is the hero you has something so unique you can't replace, so you need to pick them from the beginning? Like, what of these heroes cannot be replaced in any way, and would be the hero if you spent $10,000 and you can't pull this hero? You're just like, fuck. Like, which one of those is it?
I would say the only one that really does that is probably Mytheasia. Mytheasia is the only one that's that unique, because there's no other reviver in the game. But not only that, but it's her passive. So let's actually talk about her, because I think I think she's the interesting niche one. So let's bring her up so we don't have to like save that for later. I'm
kind of glad you went this way with it, because this is kind of the sales pitch I was going to bring up, and we're just going to agree on this.
Yeah. And because everyone talked about how she's the only reviver, but I never got to the point where I actually needed the reviving. And Zan necessarily,
it's not contrarian, like saying, like, we're both agreeing on this by individually coming to this conclusion from using her, and it's like, I don't feel like it's just because everyone says she's the worst, and we're basically saying the best one, Hydrissea, is, like, we're not being hipsters here. Like, I feel like this is actual real, like real information. You know what I mean? Like, Mytheasia is in fact good.
I completely agree with that. Like, we're not trying to like, oh, look how smart we are, and going like, oh, like everyone's saying Hydrissea, but because I discovered it like the hard way. Like, I was like, I really like Hydrissea, and I forced it to try to beat Ash 12, couldn't do it. It was struggling with Ash 11, but then there's other heroes that are way better. And then there's other content where, first of all, I'm not even taking Hydrissea in because her role is kind of taken by epics, and then there's other the elemental bonus of wood and fire comes into play, and then I'm really wanting Valeria and Evera, in a lot of situations when the other element is already covered by other characters. I don't have epics to cover those roles, so that's why I came to the realization with Hydrissea. Whereas with Mytheasia, she's very unique in the sense that these other damage dealers, there's replacements for them all in all different elements with epics and stuff like that. Mytheasia is probably one of the few characters in the game that's very unique, and for a couple of reasons. Mainly, it's going to be the revive, and then also it's going to be
passive. Her ascension passive is actually nuts.
Yes.
And when you have her ascended, it gets even more. I mean, obviously, like with anyone, this is a stupid comment, but it's like it gets more nuts. But the passive healing is something that can't be underspoken, because it's really hard to get a consistent heal every time that will save you from damage that's reflected. So like the
Mm-hmm.
point I'll make is in the guild boss, having that consistent heal is completely important, because if you deal damage and have a reflection and you're like trying to fight through your own damage basically with the
Yeah.
life steal, it will out life steal that damage just
Mm-hmm.
because of the percentage of it. At least with the ascension that I have. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
oh, completely agree. I mean,
have
like in the run that I did, 750k, like I used Mytheasia. Like she was just an awesome
you go.
healer for it. I'm always buffed anyway, so then why not take this character in here? But in this game, since you can't lap people, doing things passively like healing or without having to actually use a move is so valuable. It's like extra valuable. If you're coming from other games, it's really valuable in this one. So it makes a big difference, especially if you actually ascend her. But I think for most people, don't really care about that. They just want to know how good the character is. And
And to give you an idea how good that passive is in particular, which I don't know if you wanted to maybe put on the screen because people are just seeing the image. But
oh,
the passive is so good that like Blackhorn has a version of this passive that literally only heals himself. It's the same passive. It just heals him a percentage of his health. Hers is the same thing, but for everybody. It's like I don't she's just a vastly superior healer. She just doesn't have the attack down.
yeah, and then there's one thing I do want to say, because yes, I think that's a good point. The big thing about Blackhorn before, and I think a lot of people rightfully didn't like him too much, but now that he cleanses, he fills his role. Healing wise, he's good, but mainly he's cleansing buffs passively with his A2. He's great, and I think a lot of people's argument about Mytheasia is that Connor is like a better character, and Connor you get for free. But I think they're
I don't like that argument myself.
and I think in the beginning, yes, you're because not much content actually people die and you need the revive. It's way later into the game where you're actually going to want that, and I would say it's Void Tower is going to be really one of the main places, but you can't clear the content without her, and so that's why she's so, like that's to answer your question about a character you can't replace. It'd be someone like her.
And there's another thing you can do with her is you can do this superhero strat, which is basically you just build her up first, and as long as she can't die, you're fine. You're going to clear all the content. Like a lot of this just has to do with defense and stuff, like just flat raw stats. So just build her, max her out first, and then it's like, oh, well, yeah, you're going to clear through as much content until you get to the point where she can't carry anymore anyway.
Yeah.
But just pulling herself, she'll be fine. I mean, a lot of the epics do enough damage anyway. Like your point with Nathalie, it's
well, you get
a lot of the
Zachary.
elites even are fine.
Well, you get Zachary for free, and he's a great AoE. So it's like you're always going to have at least at least one good AoE in Zachary on every account. So this is going to shore up other content that you'll start to appreciate later on in the game. So
and she'll pair well with Zadlux. First, it's like Zadlux is going to work great because it's green. So you already know Mytheasia and him are going to be in the same content, and you get Zadlux for free.
Yeah, and I really like that. He deserves his own video because he's fantastic. Sure. Yeah. So then now let's talk about the next one here. We already got Hydrissea and Mulhex. Let's do Valeria.
Yeah, I think she might be my pick out of these. I mean, if it's not Mytheasia is, let's say, our hipster pick, sure. Valerie is going to be, for me, I think my legitimate pick. If I could pick it over, I'd probably start with her. Reason being, I picked Hector, and I don't regret my pick. And we could talk about Hector. But Hector basically has hidden mechanics that don't make the hero make any goddamn sense. And it's very frustrating because he has different abilities entirely depending upon his axis and all this stupid stuff. So Valerie, which is annoying, we'll talk about him in a minute. But Valerie doesn't have any of these problems. Like, she just has a basic concept, which is AoE damage. That's basically what she does. Okay. And then she life steals, and life stealing is something that is effectively hard to come by in this game. And the only other people I can think of is like Marion, for instance, the elite.
There's very few. There's Shadowblood Marion. There's her. It's super rare, and she's perfect for progression. She does big AoE damage because look at the modifiers versus Hydrissea. You get only 100% damage, which is nothing. When you start to understand, like when you have an idea of what other characters do, 100% damage is very weak. Whereas she is converting 20% of this character's current health into 180% damage to all enemies, so almost double. And then grants a bonus turn upon the defeat of an enemy, which the whole point of progression is to be able to beat the waves. So you're going to be proccing this constantly. only on a 4-turn cooldown.
The 180% damage too
Mhm.
is a ton. Like it's
Absolutely.
actually a lot. And then the way you get bonus turn paired with the way her passive works is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the bonus turn plus reduce. So if you one shot the wave, you just get to do it again. And so building her up, you're rewarded by making her your strongest hero, and she's clearing out waves easier for you. She has good stats. She has better base stats than Hydrissea does. To give you an idea, I keep comparing Hydrissea because she's so talked about, not because I'm just against Hydrissea.
She's over memed.
Yeah.
She's over like Coca-Cola and Pepsi are the most well-known products, right, in the world. It's the same way with Hydrissea. Everyone talks about her. Plus, she has the boob window, so everyone looks at her too. And I actually think that Valerie probably kind of kills her. I mean, in my opinion, I think she's just the better AoE damager. And I say this because I've seen people like Cold Brew's Valerie. I mean, Cold Brew I think he started with and used Valerie through his progression. And I actually used his a couple of times with assistance. I'm just now building my Valerie, and I'm realizing how good she would have been actually going through the waves. Because a big part of what I like Sierra for, who's not one of the 7 we're talking about, is just the passive AoE.
It's
like I can
fantastic,
constantly have AoE that happens. And the cooldown alone is an issue with other heroes where it's like even Hydrissea, she's good, but she doesn't have an AoE literally all the time. Whereas the way it works when you have her Valerie booked with the bonus turn, which also gives another cooldown plus an additional cooldown, is it's 2 even if you only kill one person. So if you kill one other person, it's 3 plus the turn cooldown for the bonus. You're good. Like it's actually pretty nuts the way she works. So you can do it over and over and over again and just basically nuke people into the ground.
It's super good, and it's gonna be so. I think she's easily one of the top picks. Like you, if I were to do it over again, I'd probably pick her. Like I just think she's super good, and then she doesn't get replaced by an epic. I think people might have the argument that you get Zachary for free and he's a fire damage dealer, but he has bad base stats, so it's like the damage difference, even if the modifiers are similar. Level. Yeah, you're gonna get way more out of her, and like these tiers really matter. You can see the difference between an S and an A tier, let alone an S and a B tier. It's like not even comparable, and her modifiers are higher, so it's. I think she's really good, easily one of the better ones because in the same type where water types get replaced by Mytheasia. I keep saying the same point. So moving on.
Let's talk about one that maybe has something unique that can't. Let's talk about Balberith.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a
let's
good call.
niche down here.
Here we go.
So I'm gonna let's play devil's advocate here. Okay. So I'm the guy that is a Balberith fanboy. Okay, I'm gonna be the Balberith fanboy, and I'm gonna argue for him. You're gonna be the elitist that absolutely just is
push up my
like
glasses.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're gonna go back and forth here, and I'm gonna shoot the opening volley. Okay, which is that Balberith. I'm a fanboy. Not only looks badass, but has the entire point of the game, which is fun. Like the way his kit works is innately hilarious. With the revives, you get a kill, and he kind of has the thing going for him that Valerie has with the progression. Like I go back to PvP niche, but it's like, is it really? Because you could really just kill one little dog or whatever in the campaign. You know what I mean? And then suddenly you get a revive again. You know what I mean? That's just how it works with him. So the way his revive passive works is fun, and that's my weeb argument, is that the stun is good, that he has good single target damage, that he's hard to kill. He's like a cockroach, he keeps coming back.
Okay, so
opening shot.
All right, opening shot. So I feel like for him, he's gonna feel horrible in the campaign because you will have him unbooked. So the only part of his kit that's like actually gonna feel strong, like okay, here's your main legendary. I picked him. He's gonna feel strong is his ult, where he does 280% damage, but it only does 250 and it's on a 7-turn cooldown. This is gonna feel absolutely miserable when you're trying to clear the campaign until you get it booked, until you get it ready to go. And
you know what is useful in campaign?
What is?
Body bags, punching, but like just straight up HP. Here's the thing with him is when he dies, which he will die, let's be honest, because he's
Uh-huh.
not killing the people quicker than
Yeah.
they're killing him, if we're being honest in
Uh-huh.
the campaign. But when he dies, he's coming back and he's going to be a punching bag again,
There you go.
literally
And then
twice in a row,
right? I mean, he dies and
which
then
buys
can die
time.
again.
He's buying time. He's
Uh-huh.
basically, this is my argument. He is the zombie. He's the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes zombie of this game.
There you go. You know, except massively different. You know,
Wow.
he's actually trying to do damage. Yes, he revives. Yeah, it's an interesting mechanic. Yes, he has edgelord appeal. I just think he's very niche in the sense that in dungeons and in bounties and then sometimes in Void Tower, you're gonna want this just massive nuke. But for clearing campaign, you're absolutely not going to want this. And then it's not niche enough to warrant picking him and having him be a good investment for later. So that's my argument on him. And he's slow as hell. C tier speed is very hard to make use out of because a lot of content's gonna, like, in the beginning of the game, speed doesn't matter because it's very easy to outspeed the mobs. Eventually speed becomes a massive thing, or you're gonna go second and just get completely destroyed by people that hit way harder than you do. So you need to be able to go first later, and working with C tier speed and having enough damage and crit damage and attack to be able to support that low speed is going to be very tough.
This is not a prop warrior tank, okay? Like, he's not an active guy. This is bear druid, okay? This is a guy, he can't do anything. He's just, by being there, he's a problem. You understand what I'm saying? Like, basically, here's my argument for him is that if you kill him, he's a problem. If you don't kill him, he's just annoying. Like, he'll stun you, basically. Okay? He'll stun. His damage isn't bad. I mean, 100% on basic is the same as everyone.
It's either the same or super loaded into his ult. And there's just not that much content. Like, eventually, this is going to be very useful. Eventually. But in the campaign, this would be horrible to work with because this hits too weak to work with. And it's on still of too long of a cooldown to actually clear stuff. And then his auto attack hits like normal, and then his ult is fantastic, but it's going to be on a 7-turn cooldown, take a million years.
The cooldown doesn't matter because you build him glass cannon. So when he dies, he does all the damage.
Well, you could dunk.
And then
you
when
can
he
definitely
dies,
Mario Goomba stomp your way. Yeah, you can. I'm just saying it's not ideal.
But that's my argument for him. And so therefore the people that see him, and I kind of want to pick him anyway, you're not going to get what is theoretically the best hero of the 7, but you're going to get something fun to play with. I actually like this hero. No, I don't use him in very many teams. Yes, he would be a fun hero to play. And I think there's probably an argument to be made. I think he's better in campaign. I'll say then I think, my good colleague here, Kyra Mobile, we'll say I think we'll 2 roads diverge, Yellow Woods there, or whatever the line is, but it's fine. I think we agree on the rest of him, however. Yeah. And he's probably not the one you pick out of the 7 anyway.
Probably not. But, if you pull him, or if you did pick him, you don't got a bad character. That's what's cool about these starting heroes. They're not bad. They're not bad.
There's an argument to be made, at least, for every one of them. Doesn't mean it's a good one, but it's an argument.
Well, because I think a lot of people are going to look at this, like, because that's the big thing I want to keep saying is, like, none of these are bad. If, like, somehow my account, if someone gave me an account and had any one of these characters to work with, you can make it work and have a good time. In some games, you pick these and it's just like, all right, might as well just start over. This is not one of those games. And I think a lot of people potentially get discouraged. It's like, oh, everyone's like Hydrissea, and then people pick literally anyone else, and they have, in some situations a better hero.
This
some
isn't
situations
I feel like this isn't a min-maxing thing. And not only on top of it, it's games like this that are just starting out. Like, people don't become good and discover stuff by all of us just copying the first person who says something. Like, that's what people, it's so annoying. It's like, you know how many years like Raid Shadow Legends or whatever has been around, right? And people are still coming out with new teams. It's like, if we only ever looked at the first person who said this hero is good and refused to grow or think beyond that, or have a chance with any of the other ones, you would never get anywhere in these games. That's why it's very frustrating to me. It's like, okay, some of these heroes aren't as good as the other ones, but, like, can we stop shitting on all of these? Anytime someone asks for, like, what's the advice for the 7? Oh, you didn't get Hydrissea reroll. It's like, that's the stupid. It's just
I can't.
It doesn't help anyone.
Yep. And it just, it's discouraging for the people that have an account, and it's like very close-minded. It's like, and then it's, the more you play the game, the more you realize that all these characters are good. So
And it's just wrong.
yeah, exactly. That the worst of it is just bad advice. It's just horrible advice. So probably so. With that being said, let's get on with Hector here, because I think
He
this
was my
guy's.
start with.
Yeah, you started with this guy. Nice. I think he's a very good hero. And let's break down why. So he has 25% max damage. So how about, since you use him, he has hidden mechanics. Let's explain these hidden mechanics for the people.
Here's the thing. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know if it's intended. I don't know if it's not explained somewhere and I'm the idiot. But the way that the basic attack works is different depending upon the number of axes he holds currently in his hand, which doesn't make any sense. If you read the ability, it says he first gives himself damage up, okay, and then attacks. It's for one turn, okay. The problem with this is this, in fact, or it's for an instance anyway, this actually doesn't trigger some of the times. I don't know if this is a bug, but I have seen this trigger when he holds one axe. When he holds no axes, which is every other turn, because you should understand the way this guy works, is you throw both your axes, then you use your ultimate, which gives you essentially 3 turns because you do the ultimate, and then you get 2 bonus turns because you hold no axes. So you throw your axes again. The only time you ever use the basic attack is when you hold no axes. And I don't know if I'm seeing it wrong, but when he holds no axes, he doesn't apply this damage up, or at least the visual indication does not show as such.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, in fact, seem from the numbers that I'm looking at, if he holds one axe, he does more damage than if he's just punching, which is 0 of the time, because you always punch every other turn. It's always, the rotation is ultimate, double axe, which all happens technically in the same turn or whatever, because it's bonus turns, okay? Then a punch with no axes, then ultimate again. That is the rotation that happens. So none of the times do you punch with an axe. I've only discovered this by playing with it manually and doing this literally on purpose, that I notice the ability goes up. So I don't know exactly what this is. Plus he has 3 different animations depending upon if he has the axes or not, which applies seemingly different amounts of damage. So I can't be sure exactly, but it does seem inconsistent in the way the buffing and the mechanics of this actually work. Plus, they don't say this in other moves, but he's the only one that like basically stacks your increased damage, because normally the increased damage doesn't stack. It's like a turn thing. Like for instance, on Sierra, if you basic attack and then counter attack or something, and again, like it's not 2, okay? It's just still 1. Whereas on this guy, when you do axe into axe, it stacks. So that's also unique too.
Yeah, he's definitely weird in the sense that they don't explain a lot of these mechanics, and potentially it could be frustrating for you. He's one of the worst characters to like have as a starting hero. If they're not going to explain mechanics like this, it would be a hard. Yeah, and at the same time, though, it's like when I pulled him, I'm excited to have him because he's one of the best heroes for some hard dungeon content later. In just being able to do raw amounts of damage, he's great for the guild boss. He's great for the green dungeon because he's gonna have
works
that.
Great
extra.
With Mary. Like he works really good with anyone that gives him bonus turns or resets his ult. So because he can just loop turns into turns. With Mary, he can effectively get 7 turns in the same turn. Like just in a row, which is just stupid. And
this whole bonus turn for every axe and getting 2 bonus turns, not many heroes can ever do that. So really,
you can do basically 100k flat damage with just my subpar gear, flat out in your 7 bonus turns. So he's got some crazy numbers. Plus, I think he potentially has some of the largest just damage numbers because of the way he both does damage up 2, which is different than attack up. Plus, his passive ascension is like a permanently locked buff that's different. So it like goes over there that says it's just plus his damage. So for that reason, I think he has probably some of the highest ramping damage. Just flat. Like he's just he fits the role, which is like a guy with the axes. He just does flat damage. They actually implemented his kit fairly well. I just wish it was worded better.
Yeah. So good hero. probably not the best. Like, I think the theme here is when it comes to these heroes, like, great single target damage characters are probably not the best to start your account around, but they're still good heroes if you picked them, and later on they're going to get more use. For the most part, if you're actively trying to pick this for progression, probably going to want to pick one of these AoE style characters, and then it's just splitting hairs from there.
Yeah, and I mean, I could misunderstand the way the axe works, or maybe it could just be confirmation bias or something, but it is a little confusing, and the damage seems inconsistent with the basics. So I'm messing around with it now, and it kind of seems to be the same thing. So.
All right. Let's close it out with the last hero on this list in Evera. So I think this hero is super cool and very unique in the sense it's kind of like Hector in the sense of all these bonus turns, but I think a very cool hero, like a fun to play hero in the sense that, so what her passive is, rage per valid hit on an enemy, converts all rage into a bonus attack with artillery support upon reaching max rage. So then, and then max rage for her is going to be 4. And then on her auto, she does 80% damage, 30% chance to apply a bleed, and if affected with attack up, launches a bonus attack with gunfire. She does a lot of these bonus attacks where if she has attack up, launches a bonus attack with gunfire.
Use her in almost everything, to give you an idea. I actually like her a lot, and she might be the other one I would say pick. And essentially her gameplay loop is like this. Is that without her ascension, you start with the ultimate, basically, and you use the ult. That way you get the attack up. Because how she works is both her basic attack and her other attack. She's got like 3 moves, basically. The other one are kind of the same thing. The only difference is the second one will remove a buff, basically. The difference with the first one, with the bleed too, is it will do the bleed, but they both have the exact same bonus attack. So which is if you have attack up, they'll do a bonus attack, which is always like this gunfire thing, okay? Now, when you get the 4 stacks, it does an artillery attack, which is a thing that they don't actually... They don't show you the details of it in here, but basically what it is it's one volley of her ultimate volley that she does. So like it's one chunk of the volley that happens, because this is like a multiple thing that happens. And for that reason, it can be very easy to trigger this volley that happen over and over again. It's bonus attacks, not bonus turns. And the only way to get the bonus attack to trigger is by making her do an attack either A1 or A2 or basic. So like basically you can trigger the counters, the bonus attacks off of anything. And then if you continually get the bonus attacks over and over and over, and you can basically do the entire wave clear just in a combo. It's crazy. She actually does a lot of damage in AoE.
I think she's awesome with that. Like the bonus attacks are insane. She constantly goes. And then she has good synergy with attack up, and she also removes positive effects, which I think is really cool too. And then her modifiers are actually good. Like they all are on the higher end. Yeah, so it's like all of them start at 100% or 80%, but then the multiple attacks on there are giving her, she's doing like 150-ish, something like that.
It's great cleanup too, because the bonus attacks will automatically go to a different target. It's not like some of these moves where if you kill somebody, they shoot the same attack into the dead body. Like it will target the next person and then kill that person next. It has smart targeting with all of that stuff.
Yeah, there's some heroes like Abaddon.
Well done.
He has like a 4-hit. But if he kills the guy, I watched him 4-hit a guy. He killed him in the first hit, and then he 3-hit the guy, and it's like, dude, he's already dead. And whereas it's cool that I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's a really nice thing to have if you're trying to especially where she's useful at, which is in campaign, in bounties. I think she's gonna be really good. Like she's good pretty much everywhere. I can't think of really much content where she would be bad at. I can see maybe in dungeons, in the water dungeon, people are not really using her.
She's also particularly good because she's a combination of single target and AoE. So it's like her single target damage is good. It's not bad, okay? Yeah. And her AoE is pretty good. But you get the AoE almost like a splash effect. And so you can pair her with people like Sierra, and the combo of her plus Sierra will wave clear almost everything passively without even having to use it, just basic attacking, basically, because it will automatically trigger Sierra and her passive and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, which is dope. And then she also benefits from Connor, who's a character that you can always get just by doing that mission here, where you get a Connor guaranteed. And so she's going to be able to always have the attack up. You don't need to have her double ascended or do an ult. You can just have attack up immediately, and then she'll be able to start comboing off with just auto attacks or her middle attack there right off the start, which is great because I think a lot of people just obviously are not going to have her double ascended. So if she
further
pairs with other heroes.
confirmation of Hector. I just tested it now. With
Mhm.
both axes, he gives himself damage up. With one axe, he gives damage up. When he has no axes and you punch, which is basically the only time you ever use his basic attack, he doesn't get the damage up. Like, it's a buff that stays there. Like, you can actively see it, and it stays for a turn. And so it's like if it doesn't make any sense. The basic's not functioning the way
Glad you
it's
tested
intended.
that. But that's
Like, I'm saying, I'm looking at it
that's
actively. Like,
such a
I can see
bummer
it
that
happen.
it doesn't explain it. But it's good to know. I think that's good information. You know, saves people a little energy there. You know, or you know,
But it's counterintuitive because you will literally never use the basic attack with an axe in your hand. Never. Like, you'll always have no axes. So you should be getting the damage up, which you don't. It doesn't make any sense.
That's a bummer. Yeah, that has to be a bug because it's like it's either a bug or they need to add like another paragraph of text to this guy's kit because he's probably the most underexplained character in the entire game. It's kind of frustrating, especially on a starting character that shouldn't ever happen. But
yeah, it's bad because the further thing is it has to be a bug because it ruins. Otherwise, it's intuitive gameplay. You use the ultimate, you combo the axes, you go. But it ruins it. Where if you have to have an axe in your hand in order to get the damage up, you literally have to ruin the entire point of the hero in order to get the. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it would make perfect sense the other way.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a bug. If you're seeing this, please fix that shit.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered all of them. Here, let me pull up the image again. Okay, so yeah, we talked about all of them. I don't want to do like any grades for them or anything like that because I feel like that's dumb. Yeah, that's a massive bait there. I think we covered them pretty in depth. Yeah,
we made arguments for each. I mean, at this point, it's like choose your Pokemon bros and brosettes. Like, go out there, pick the one you want. I pick Balberith. Yeah, I mean, have some fun. Have some dignity. Pick a hero that be a hipster.
I think, like, okay, let's rate them on fun now, just to close it out. I think from a fun perspective, I'm thinking Evera, number 1. Let's do Hector, number 2.
I don't think Evera's very fun. I'm gonna be honest.
You don't think? I was
thinking I use her in almost everything. She's good. I mean, she's good. Okay,
yeah.
But it's boring. You see the same animation literally over and over and over and over because it's just AOE after it. It's just like a meteor shower mage combo. You know what I mean? You just sit there and watch it drain. I don't find her gameplay especially interactive. I find Hector's to be interactive because basically he's best played on manual, and I think Balberith and Mytheasia would probably be some of the most fun because they do something unique. I like stuff that when I play gacha games, I don't feel like I'm just like who has the biggest number. Like, I don't like looking at like the biggest attack, biggest crit, biggest. It boils it down to like the same game ever. So I
agree with that. I was just thinking bonus turns are fun. I like bonus turns or bonus attacks. If I wanted like boring big damage numbers, it would be probably Valeria. Something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's got to be on the bottom for fun. I mean, unless you find the Wombo Goomba Stomp combo, which I mean that is kind of fun, I guess. But I don't find that very often actually happening because most of the time the enemies have the same health. So it's like if you're gonna one shot one of them, you're gonna one shot all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think that closes it out. I think we covered it. I think we got it.
I think it's a pretty solid video. It's a long one, but I think it's a pretty solid video. And if you watch that, you're probably more informed. I'm definitely going to timestamp stuff, for this. I think that should help people out. I probably should say this in the beginning of the video, not at the end. But yeah, we're going to be covering a lot more Awaken KS era videos. So be sure to be subscribed to not only my channel, but also to DM's second channel when he's covering this game. We got a lot of more stuff coming your way. So with that, guys, we're out of here. Two brothers, we're out of here. Peace.